Hello, welcome to Cena Podcast, where the gossip is just as good as the food. In case anyone is wondering what Cena is, it is a podcast where we discuss and bring awareness to different Hispanic and Latin American cultures and communities. Join us as we explore its diverse traditions, history, and more. My name is Erika Diaz.
My name is Juan Pacheco. I'm a business major.
I'm Astrid Zuniga, accounting major.
I'm Elizabeth Enamorado. I'm a natural science major.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Today our episode will be focused on Easter and just general church traditions. So I want to go over maybe our history with church itself. All of us grew up Catholic, and so I remember when I was going to church avidly. This was whenever I was in elementary school. I was part of the after school Catholic program, and this is where I was taught a lot of the core Catholic things. When did you start learning about Catholic?
When I was born, I was baptized at I was 8 months, and then I'm up here, and I went to what's catecismo? Yeah, the classes you go to when you're young.
Yeah.
Young
Yeah,
and
right.
then I got older. When I was 13, 14, I kind of didn't go for probably for 4 years. I would go often.
Experiment.
I never stopped, but I wasn't involved or how would you say it?
Yeah, it wasn't
Participating a lot, but then last year I started I had a little existential crisis kind of, and I started reading and asking people and talking to people, and then so I came to my own conclusions and started going back again.
Yeah, you had a revelation.
Kind of, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but a lot of stuff started making sense that I didn't know when I was younger. So
I got you.
Yeah.
What about you, Astrid? How was it for you?
Well, I grew up Catholic, but it was pretty much till elementary school about. We just used to go to Mass, and that was it.
Okay.
And then late elementary school, so 4th, 5th grade, I started being an altar server at Mass. And then middle school to high school, I went to a Catholic school. So we had mandatory religion classes.
Right.
And then now I'm here. So.
Okay. Cool.
So I also did grow up Catholic. My mom is straight up Catholic. She's from Mexico, so my grandmother imposed the whole Catholic religion on her. I'm a little different. So I was Catholic up until maybe 5th grade. But then I started making my own conclusions, and I ended up being a non-denominational Christian. And yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that is interesting, because I do obviously I was baptized when I was born too, and it was when I was born I was the same way. I was baptized, and then I do recall going to church in Mexico, but it wasn't I feel it was every weekend. Because my grandma, she was really big into church and all that. Mm-hmm. So she would just take us, and then I do recall Mass there. But I more so recall Mass whenever we moved to the United States. I went to the after school, they had great events, whenever there was a religious holiday. So I do recall that. I remember going to confession and just doing so much in that first church when we moved to the United States. And then there was a church closer to the beach that we went to much later, still a Catholic church, and I went to do my confirmation there. So yeah, it was nice. And then coming here, which is obviously a Catholic university, it was kind of going a little bit back to the roots, because I haven't been in church for such a long time. But I took a Bible class, the New Testament, and it's a phenomenal class. It really opened my eyes to how people interpret the Bible. So I thought it was a great class. All right, we can move over. We can talk about the 7 sacraments, because this is something that is core to Catholicism. So can you tell me what they are? You know?
Well, I'm not the best explainer, but I guess they're different stages of your life as a Christian.
Okay.
So the very first one is baptism, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's you do your first communion. Is that confirmation? Yeah. Confirmation. First communion comes first, then confirmation. But that doesn't mean you have to do all of them. Matrimony. Not everybody gets to get married, So some people choose to be single or religious life. So not all 7. You don't have to do all 7 of them. Like it just depends how your life goes.
Okay.
Like the anointing of the sick. Like that's mostly like for people that are like that they know they might die and they're in the hospital. But some people die without like out of the nowhere. So.
Out of nowhere. That is true. So it's not mandatory to have all 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not at all.
Because I feel like that. I don't know if that was something that was taught to us, right? Because like some people believe that maybe you need all 7 to be a Catholic, but I feel like as long as you try your best to check all those boxes, I think you can be a Catholic.
I would say that the 2 most important ones are baptism, obviously, and your first communion.
First communion, yeah.
The Eucharist. I think that's like out of the whole faith. I think that the Eucharist is like our main.
The main connection with God.
No, our main
Like,
our
that's the
main
main
thing.
distinction.
Our distinction
Oh.
from any other
Oh,
denomination.
what Catholics have.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a great way to put it because you never hear anyone else do like, oh,
Yeah, we can talk a little bit more about Eucharist later.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is a good point to go over. Because let's go down the list. For baptism, I don't remember my baptism because I was literally
do.
just born, yeah. And so I wanted to ask you, because you actually did it recently.
I did. So I actually got baptized. Fun fact, I got baptized right outside Canale Arena. It was a Tuesday. It was at 4 o'clock. I just remember it because it was such a special day to me. I was surrounded by people who have seen me fall through the cracks and just been there from the beginning and just lifted me up. I mean, baptism was something that I told my family, and they looked at me and they were like, "You don't even go to church. How are you going to get baptized?" But I knew God was calling me to get baptized. So even if my family wasn't there, I knew it was a step for me to acknowledge my faith with God. So I got baptized November, maybe like 2 weeks after my birthday.
All right, that's really cool. And how was the process? Because I feel like it'd be different based on like what religion but how was the process for you? Well, like what did they do whenever they baptized you?
Okay, so whenever they baptized me, so I sat in an athletic trough, and the water was actually warm. And I know when people first get baptized, I know it's cold because I've been to so many baptisms, but the water was warm, and it was more of a Lord. So we prayed over the baptism before. We were like, Lord, like, you know exactly what's about to happen. Like, please guide her and lead her in the way that you want her to lead. Let her go out and make disciples of her own. And we basically just said, Lord, you are the firm, like, the person that witnesses this testimony. And so we prayed beforehand, and then we prayed after.
Okay, that's really cool because it can be such a different experience for a lot of people. One of my friends, he was recently baptized, and yeah, it's just I guess it must be a really powerful experience, especially if you're old enough to remember it. You'll be like, oh, this will stick with me forever. I think that is really cool. But you were baptized as a baby?
As a baby, yeah.
Yeah.
But in the Catholic faith, obviously, you can be baptized as an adult, which is just, like she said, it's just like the beginning of your life.
And the thing with other churches is if you join them, like say you join like a Methodist church, or you join any other denomination, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll make you get baptized in their church. Well, not make you, but like they'll try to get you baptized in their church. And if you come into our church, if you got baptized by the Trinity, you know what the Trinity is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't ask you to get baptized again because any baptism done by that's Trinitary is valid. So we don't require people to get baptized again if it was a valid baptism.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you. That is really cool. I like that they do that. So we're gonna go over to First Communion. This is something that I vividly remember. Well, I was maybe 10, maybe even younger. It was here in the States. I was in South Carolina whenever that's where my church was. And I do recall like the training process. I don't know if they did this with y'all, but this is something I recall. they give you like not the Eucharist itself, but it was like a Eucharist imitation. Did they do that with y'all?
It was kind of like a fake bread in
It
a
was like a
sense.
fake
It was
bread.
probably the
I think
unconsecrated
It's
host.
the same thing, but he has to get consecrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. See, that's what I think y'all.
So, because you can just eat those, like,
Yeah.
no
So-
problem.
It was one of those, and they had them in like a little plastic, like
Container.
Yeah, it was one of those, and they like showed you how to hold your hand. Because I remember that they had the left hand over the right hand, and they gave you like it wasn't a wine that they gave you because there was a whole bunch of children. So they were and then they didn't give it to you officially. Then it was like grape juice or some type of other drink to replace the wine. And yeah, I remember they had it lined up to do it, and then the next time I went to church and when I actually did it, I thought that was really cool. And the Eucharist, it could be different. It could be like a circle wafer, or they have like the actual like large Eucharist and they break it into pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember that, and it was like sharp, because you just had like this round one, and then whenever you actually go, it was like, oh man, this is sharp.
I know it's depending on the church whether they buy the individual ones or they mix them. Usually they mix them,
Yeah.
just to
Yeah,
have
but-
the effect of breaking the bread.
Yeah, because
in
very
the
symbolic.
church, Yeah.
In the Catholic
So,
Church.
Does anybody else want to talk about the Eucharist?
Well, I think
First communion.
I think the Eucharist is just it's such a cool, like, I don't want to say just cool, but like very symbolic image of Catholicism, like we pointed out before. And yeah, I do recall whenever after they broke the Eucharist into little pieces, if they ran out of those, then they would get the circular ones. Because yeah, so many people were lining up to the Eucharist. All right, we can move on to confirmation.
Well, I was going to talk about the Eucharist a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like how when I, from like a very age, like I would always go up and take it, but I never really knew what it was until like about a year or two ago, where I was like, my friends from some other type of denominations were trying to convince me to go to theirs, and they told me that they only saw it as a symbol, and I told them that we see it as like the actual like body and blood of Christ, and like we're pretty much like, apart from the Orthodox, but you really don't find them here in the U.S. like that. There's a few of them, but so I did my little own research, and I went back to the writings of these people called the Church Fathers. So you know how any Christian knows that Jesus is like in charge, but obviously the apostles died, and they left other people in charge, and names like those are Polycarp, Ignatius, Clement of Rome, Justin Martyr, Irenaeus. So all these guys, like they have a lot of writings, and it's almost all of them. They claim it to be the real blood and the real body of Christ. So I'm like, if they were taught by the apostles that it was the real blood and the real body, and my church is claiming this, and we're the only ones doing this. So I was like, there's something here that like the very first Christians were doing, and so are we. So,
Yeah, the special call.
yeah. So that's why I go like at least twice a week to get it, because it's like it became like important to me, like really important.
I got you.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. I'm glad that you were connected with the faith like that.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to move on to confirmation? Yeah. All right. For confirmation, I'll start with my story. It was I went to two churches whenever we moved to the States. There was one in this area called St. James in South Carolina, and then one in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. This was whenever I was going to Myrtle Beach. And I do recall, like, we had to get dressed nice. I do recall that, you had to get your white suit. Or a white suit wasn't is that for confirmation or is that for communion? Or
That was
is it
for
for
first communion.
Yeah,
I
first
remember
communion,
first
yeah.
communion distinctly. We had to wear like white dresses.
Yeah.
The white everything.
I do
It
recall
looked like
that,
they were
yeah.
getting married.
Yeah.
I was making fun of them. I was like, look at these little kids getting married. I was like, that's not right.
I mean, it kind of is because technically the Eucharist is important. The
Yeah.
Eucharist is Christ, and that's the church.
Exactly.
So-
So in a way, it is like
Yeah.
a love marriage. Yeah.
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 So for confirmation, it was a black suit then.
It was just anything.
I think
You
it was
can
anything.
wear anything.
The
that's
only
like-
thing specific about confirmation is you have to pick a saint to be
Yeah, I did.
confirmed.
Pick a saint, yeah.
Wait, so what do you mean you had to pick a saint to be confirmed as?
Okay, so pretty much like you have to write a letter to the bishop saying like, hey, like I want, basically the saint you pick is the saint that you want to intercede for you during your life. So it's like, it's basically like a direct relationship that you kind of form with the saint. So that's why it's important to us to have a saint. So you have to, basically, I remember for me, I had to write a little letter to the bishop saying, hey, I want this saint because of whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have a real reason. And most people are just like,
On
they're
my
the
own
patron
story,
saint.
like I didn't have to write a letter. I just went when I went to get my confirmation. I just told the bishop what saint I chose, and unfortunately, I don't remember what saint I chose because I wasn't like I didn't care a lot back then. So I was just like,
Yeah.
but now I picked another one nowadays, like in my own like conscience, you know. So it's
Which saint did you pick?
it's called well I have two. There's one called Padre Pio, this guy from Italy, and Justin Martyr.
Okay. Yeah, the thing I picked
It's like from the 2nd century.
Okay.
Yeah, he got killed for being
For being a Catholic? Okay. Yeah, because the saint I picked was Juan Diego, which is like a Mexican saint.
Yeah.
And I picked him because he was Mexican, just having that connection to my nationality and to my roots. It felt really important, so that's why I picked Saint Juan Diego. Do you recall which saint?
Yeah, I chose the Virgin Mary.
The
solely
Virgin Mary.
because she is such a big, like, symbolic
Yeah.
person. And, like, the more I started, like, searching about her life, because obviously, like, we know her just through Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
But just her life in general, technically, like, to me, I think the hardest hitting, like, kind of smaller part, I guess, of her life was that she was an immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, she had the struggle of an immigrant and having Jesus. So, that's, like, 2 times the difficulty for her. And just the fact that she had such faith to just always say yes. So, I feel like that was what, like, a very big thing I wanted to do in my life.
Yeah.
Was have the courage to just go.
That's a great thing. Yeah. I think that's a phenomenal way to back up why you chose Virgin Mary. That's great. And shall we move on to reconciliation?
Yeah.
Can you explain reconciliation to me, like one of y'all?
Okay,
I'm not very well informed about
it. It's better known as confession, where you go to a priest and confess like your sins. It's not obligatory, right? But like it's recommended, and it all connects back to the Eucharist because there's a part in the Bible where Paul says that you cannot receive the body of Christ. How was it like?
You can't basically like the only way you can't receive the Eucharist, because the Eucharist is for everyone because it's a sign of God's grace, but it's only if you're basically, like, if you've committed a mortal sin and haven't confessed it, then you can't receive it. Like, if you're not in a state of grace yourself, you can't really receive grace. That's why to some Catholics, they don't receive it unless they know, like, the true symbolic, like, whatever.
Okay.
So it's just like, and it goes back to Jesus too, where he says, I'm not very well known about verses, but I do like remember what they say. It goes, go and confess your sins to each other. So it goes back. It goes really back to the Bible, and I guess as the time went, like, well, they found out like the best way to for somebody to confess their sins is for them to go to a person in private and that person to never talk about it. Because I mean, if you try like confessing with a group of friends or like confessing like out loud in your church, the thing with that is that other people are gonna hear and other people can like judge. So like I guess like that's the best way the church found for you to confess your sins in a way that it's only between you and God.
Yeah. So, I do think that is important to have that sort of intimacy, like that privacy between you and God. So yeah, I was aware of confession, and yeah, I forgot that reconciliation is like the proper title.
The proper title. No, it's not bad calling it confession.
Yeah, and have you ever done confession? Then the father's like, you have to do cuatro credos, or like,
yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, they want like in January.
Yeah, I haven't done one in a while, but yeah, I recall he was like, you have to do one credo and like one, and like something else, I can't quite remember.
It's usually just like a couple prayers.
I mean, I have some friends that they're really nervous, and I'm like,
It's like something. Yeah, this is part of. This is just part of it.
I bet most people are nervous solely because they feel like they're gonna get judged. But the thing is, with the priest, like he said, they take kind of like an oath, kind of that they can't.
I used to go with like a random priest I don't know, so like I don't see them, so I don't.
And that's why in most like churches, like real churches, they have like the private booth. So there's like a wall separating you basically.
Yeah, so
they don't know unless they know.
Completely.
Yeah.
Oh, is it like the Catholic videos I've seen where it's like
It's basically like a
He's
little
sitting
room.
right
They dramatize it a lot.
There's a
Like,
wall. Yes.
yeah, but
that's what it is. Oh, hold on, my alarm went off. I'm really sorry. But okay, so yeah, like we were mentioning, like you said that they dramatize it a lot whenever they're
and
doing
the
confession.
movies, you know.
Yeah, like a lot of Mexican old like
Yeah,
old
the
era
novelas.
films. Yeah, they have it like Father, forgive me for everything. But yeah, but I do think that is really cool that there is that. That's kind of I think that's pretty. I think that holds up very well in today's era. Like when you feel like you need to say something, and you can have this direct connection to God. I think that's wonderful. Yeah.
So that's why a lot of people say like after they go, they feel like a weight lifted off
Yeah,
their shoulders,
yeah.
kind of.
God.
Because it's basically like you feel guilty for it, so the more you hold it in, the more like
It's almost
worse you feel about yourself.
It's
So
almost
once
like
if you just
therapy.
say it, it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
it's a
basically
little bit
therapy.
like therapy, like holy therapy.
There.
Yeah.
Holy.
So what? Moving on in the list of the seven sacraments, we're going to talk about anointing of the sick. So can you tell me what that is? Can y'all explain?
I'll let Astrid do this.
Yeah.
I've been getting up the-
Yeah, this is another one that I'm not very familiar with.
Anointing of the sick is pretty much like if like most times it's like he said in the beginning or when we were talking, I guess behind the scenes. But it's basically most people just see it as when you're about to die, right? But if it's like some accident, tragedy, whatever, like that you can't do it while you're still alive but about to die, you can get like the priest obviously to pray over it. That's what the funeral is for. But also if you have any like life-threatening illness, that's when you would do anointing of the sick because it's basically they bring in like a little thing of like oil.
Mhm.
It's kind of like the baptismal oil just in case like you die. So you're kind of like prepared.
Right.
Like it basically renews your baptism for you, like just in case you die, that you're there, like mentally about to go, or purgatory, I guess, Catholic terms.
Okay. Do they rub the oil on? Like
Yeah, they do the sign of the cross. It's kind of like the baptism and
Okay.
confirmation. They have oil and they just do the sign of the cross on your forehead,
Okay.
and they say a little special prayer.
All right. Yeah. And then matrimony, of course.
Marriage.
Getting married because
I'm
like.
not familiar with it.
And it's like in Catholic marriages, you see they got like I don't know if the correct term is like, not a lasso, but like they.
Oh, the thing they
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
wrap around the bride and the groom.
I'm about
Yes.
to go to a wedding. I can't think of the word. I'm about to go to a wedding, and my parents were chosen as the matrimonial godparents or the matrimonial.
Oh.
Yeah, so they're gonna be the ones who like buy this. I don't, it's probably not called a lasso, but you know what I'm talking about, right? That
Yeah,
they
the
bring
thing
it
I'm
up.
not sure if it's like in every country because I've only gone to Hispanic people weddings,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure if like the Vietnamese or like the American Catholic
Yeah.
communities, like if they do it, I'm not sure. They might not, but
I think
I'm not.
I know for sure Hispanics they do it, like
Yes,
for a
they do.
fact. They do
Yeah.
it.
Yes, they do.
But I think Americans, I think some of them do it, some of them don't. It just depends if they find it, because it's very like a symbolic thing. Because it's
Yeah.
supposed to show that you're now one, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah.
It's a wonderful sentiment. And I think it's also how Hispanics, how they celebrate faith. It's also different because the Virgin Mary is a huge symbol in Latin American countries. And I guess it can definitely depend based on where you're from. But yeah, they're doing that. They're going to have the lasso. And moving on to the last one we have here is holy orders. So can y'all explain to me what is holy orders?
Please.
Like what part in your life does it feel?
Holy orders is pretty much the priesthood. So it's not the same as just going to a religious life. So a sister or a brother, they're not going to go under the sacrament of holy orders.
Right.
Holy orders is specifically if you want to be a priest.
Right, okay.
Oh.
Yeah, and you have to like withhold from other things, like you can't get married if you're a sister or a brother. Okay.
There's been a couple of guys that came to see me that are in seminary for like the Memphis area right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
They're trained to be
Yes.
okay, that's
There's like
That's awesome. Yeah, because seminary and religious life, it's pretty much like 7 years before you're actually
Yeah.
a
Yeah, it's like always a while.
because just in case, like, obviously people feel the calling, but is it really your calling?
Yeah.
Right? So that's what they're trying to discern. That's why it's called the discernment process.
Okay.
So they start learning, obviously, how to be a priest. But first, it's like their formation years, I guess. I think it's like the first 2 years.
I mean, I really admire like how they pretty much when you become a priest, like you pretty much give up everything for God. So in other denominations, like I know some pastors that they have like a wife and kids, and I know like a local Memphis pastor that has like 5 restaurants. So one thing I can value about the priesthood is like they try to give everything for God and for the people of their church.
Mhm.
So that's something that like you rarely see nowadays. Like back then, it used to be a lot like that in every religion where people would like dedicate themselves to one thing. But I think like the priesthood is one of the like remaining things that where you see like somebody give up everything. Like,
Yeah.
then they can't have investments, they can't have like stocks or any of that, you know.
Yeah.
And most of them qualify for footsteps. So like being that, like you really like are dedicated to be that because
It's a very pure life.
yeah, I wouldn't say pure, but I said like a lot of commitment.
Commitment, definitely a lot of commitment. I feel like it's the same with sisters too, because
Yes, well, yeah, with the sisters too.
Because you always see sisters like depicted in media and stuff, but it really is a very like not disconnected from society, but
Yeah.
like a different
Like
type of society.
you guys might know Sister Julita, like she's
Mhm.
a
Yes.
sister. She,
I feel like it's a humble lifestyle that they're
she's
living.
very dedicated. I mean,
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I
From
think
what I know, religious life, if anything, they're stricter than the priesthood. Because the religious life, for sure, or like at least the ones I know. So at school, we had the Nashville Dominicans of St. Cecilia. So them, and then I've kind of like obviously we learned more about religious life. But to me, I see like especially sisters, or I feel like they're definitely like stricter on their lifestyle that they live. Because for example, like they're both priests and religious life. Their jobs is the church, right? So priests is the church or the schools that they teach, but they still get a paycheck. Priests. Religious life, it all goes back to like the mother house or like the main like organization, pretty much, or like community. So and then they divide it.
you do it in the name of God. pretty
Yeah.
much, Yeah.
So I feel like to me they seemed a lot like strict on like how they handle the real world, I guess. But they're also the ones who go out into the world. and do
Yeah.
things. The church, the priests just maintain the church.
Yeah, I think that's a crazy like that's a balance they have to strike, and I think it's very admirable that they managed to do it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so moving on just to general church get-togethers, general like church stories we have to tell because everyone here has gone to church, and we should tell a little bit of our history with church. So, like with after-school church. So y'all did after-school church, right? Like all of y'all, or is it just something? No, it's something I didn't. Well, you went to a Catholic school.
Yeah, I mean,
Did
but
you go to
ours
Catholic
was
school?
no,
we
I
had
went to-
classes. Like they were mandatory
I
classes.
went to like first communion class and confirmation class, like an hour before church. Yeah, but the teachers were not like the best. Like,
Yeah.
like they could have taught me a little more, but they were really good people that did their best.
Yeah, it was like a volunteering thing too.
Yeah, it's like
It's
everything.
usually like the parents
Yeah.
of the children.
Yeah, like my teacher was great when I went for our confirmation, and she would just like take her time. She was really patient with us, and she would just like take her time and try to explain the best of her ability what we were trying to learn. And I do recall that I didn't talk with anybody, so I was just like in the corner, and she was just like
Not the shy kid.
Yeah, that's me. And so yeah, she would just like go over like what we needed to know for confirmation. But first communion, I was a lot more talkative. It was like elementary school. This was before it was like against like I don't know. People got old enough. I don't want to talk with y'all.
Yeah.
But yeah, in elementary school, my god sister was there. My godparent was the teacher. So so I knew. I was just chilling. I was a lot more comfortable talking to these people more openly, and it was nice just to they have these like different colored books with like kind of like an elementary textbook, full of drawings and stuff explaining everything about the Eucharist, which was really really nice to. Wish we had more of that now, but yeah, it was really nice to like look back on those books. Like I found them and I was like, oh, this is what I learned. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So-
I actually went to a Christian school, so I know for middle school, from 7th to 8th grade, because I transferred them there in 7th grade, it was chapel. We were. It was like a cattle herd. We were all just like pushed into this chapel, and so it was Wednesdays, and then all throughout my high school, it was Mondays. So we were all just like, oh my gosh, we're here.
Yeah.
We're asleep, but we're here. Half of us actually did fall asleep at one point. It was not fun.
Yeah.
So it was obligatory at your school to go to the their service, I guess.
Yes, so that it would happen during the school day, so it wasn't like after school.
Yeah, same for me. We had mandatory masses on
Yeah.
Thursdays at 8 a.m.
Oh,
Which they realized then was a bad idea because pretty much like my junior year, they were like, we'll move it to 9 because people would just skip. Obviously,
Yeah.
it was just from 8 to 9. So they would just skip and then go to their first class. So they had first class, then mass, just to make sure no one skipped.
That's how mine was. Mine was like first
That's bummer.
and second period, and then chapel, and then the rest of the class.
Yeah. No, I wasn't. I went to public school, so it wasn't mandatory. I had to go Wednesday. Like my parents were like, all right, it's Wednesday after school. They're like, all right, we're going to Catholic school. And I was like, ah. So yeah, they would take me, and then
You were like, no!
But yeah, overall it was a great experience. But yeah, there was those times whenever you're just like, man, can I just catch a break? But it's okay. I mean, ultimately, I did do my confirmation. So do you want to? We should talk a little bit about like the prayers they taught us because I don't remember a lot of them, but I don't remember them like word for word. But I do remember it was like multiple prayers that they handed us to us. The one that I recall, because it was so long, was the credo, or I forget the creed, right? That's what it's
The
called.
Apostles' Creed.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
The
what it's called
Apostles'
in
Creed,
English, the creed. And I just remember whenever they handed us, like, oh, you have to memorize this, and we're like, oh my goodness, because yeah, they handed us like a booklet of like the ones we had to memorize. I do remember the Padre Nuestro, which
I learned it in Latin. So, fun fact, when I was a freshman in high school, I took Latin. We don't go back to those times. But anyways, a part of our requirement for the test, we actually had a test, was to learn the Lord's Prayer in Latin. So I actually know it in Latin and in Spanish and in English. So
our foreign languages, that would be the test. Was
Yeah.
the prayers in
The
whatever
prayers.
language you took.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, about the creeds, they're pretty old. Like the Apostle Creed. Well, we did two creeds, right? The Apostle Creed and the
Well, we just have like a new version.
the Nicene.
Nicene Creed.
Nicene
Nicene Creed is just a newer new translation of the Apostles'
The Apostles'
Yeah,
Creed.
I think the Apostles is from the late 1st century, and the Nicene Creed is from the late 4th century. So like, I think that's kind of cool that you're reciting like a prayer that like somebody like almost 2,000 years ago was praying. So like that, yeah, I kind of like admire that.
that is really cool to think about just how long the impact of these prayers have lasted. It's really impressive.
I mean, that's pretty much the Catholic Church as a whole.
Yeah,
It's just
it
tradition.
It is.
It's really
Yeah,
is.
that's why
Yeah.
the sacraments are still a big thing, and that's what distinguishes, I guess, us from other Christians. We're very like tradition focused.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And carrying on with like that tradition, a theme that we were talking about. Have y'all done Lent? Like, is that something that have y'all participated in?
I mean, Lent started Ash Wednesday,
Yeah.
so we're currently in Lent.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so we were currently in Lent. See, shows you how
It's the 40 days between Ash Wednesday and Easter.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
And this is the time whenever you have to give up something, right? In the name
Yeah,
of the Lord.
most
Yeah.
people, they're like, oh, like, so what are you giving up? But like at school, what we were taught is because some people like we just don't know what to give up, right? Because some people it's very like a shallow give up kind of thing. So they're like, oh, no chocolate, no soda, like
Mhm.
things that like they find easy, I guess.
Yeah.
So physical things.
Yeah, physical things. Yeah, but
Okay.
the way I was taught in school or in high school, they brought up a new concept of the twist, I guess, was you can add something to your life,
Mhm.
like something to your
Oh.
spiritual life. So that's what I've been trying to do because I just never know what to give up specifically.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I feel like it's easier to incorporate something.
Mhm.
It has like, some people are just like, oh, like a rosary more often or like the Bible more often.
Got it.
So yeah, they're just saying like the 40 days are easy because that's how long it takes, like psychologically for human to develop a habit. So they're like,
Right.
if you start doing it every single day during Lent, it should carry over if you're doing it like kind of strictly, I guess.
Right. No, that's a very clever way to continue the tradition. I think it's very smart.
And then, pretty much any other things we do you can find that back in Scripture. Or like Jesus, where he was
The
like,
desert.
yeah,
It
the
was
desert
Jesus
for
in the
40
desert.
days, and where Cena
was
was tempting him.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I don't know if it's before he went there or after. Like they asked him like what they could do to. I forgot what part, but he pretty much says that like Jesus himself like commanded like 3 things you can do is like pray more. What was the other one?
Almsgiving.
Almsgiving, and about eating less. What's it called?
Fasting.
Fasting. Yeah. So those pretty much
Yeah. Those are the main things.
3 things that came from him.
Okay.
Like that's what we try to do during that. Like eat less, I guess. Pray more and try to like help the community with your time.
And you were doing that?
Yeah. Well, I fell sometimes, but that's what I try to.
Yeah, you try to do it.
As for the fasting aspect, that's why I know for sure once you turn 12, you have to, or as a Catholic you should.
Right.
It's pretty much, they say it's mandatory, but some people don't do it. It's up to you. But pretty much fasting for us, it's not it's not like the Jewish fasting during their seasons, I guess, where it's from a specific time you don't eat. Ours is for sure to get everyone to do it, the easy way around, I guess, is you just don't eat meat on Fridays.
Right.
But usually, if you want to go deeper than just Fridays, throughout the week you're just supposed to eat 2 meals, and they can't be big meals because Lent is preparing you for Easter, which is when he died. So it's kind of supposed to be a mourning kind of thing. You're about to mourn, so you shouldn't be celebrating and eating too much. That's why.
Okay, that's a good way to put it for someone who doesn't understand. So yeah, I think that's very informative.
Almsgiving is just charity, so pretty much try your best to give to others.
Okay.
Oh.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm just looking at this. So, because we already talked about the wine of the Eucharist, I'm going to skip that. And then, do y'all have any recollective memories of any past Easters? Or because Easter is usually portrayed, with the eggs and the basket you have to go looking for the. Yeah. Did you do anything recently?
My aunt went to this Catholic church that was near her house, and what they did was those 3 days, they recollected the life of Jesus. So they would basically put on a play outside, and it was it was basically the whole life of Jesus throughout those 3 days, and it was.
Sorry. Was it the stages of the cross?
Yes.
Because that's what you're.
Actually, it was part of they call it the Passion of Christ. When
Yes.
I was part of that. I was to play twice. I was a Roman soldier.
We did it. We did the play in middle school.
Yeah, I was
I
like a little 14-year-old, with his little kid. Yeah, I should have.
That actually, I have a funny story about that. My brother, he was in that too, and he was he was in the birth of Jesus. He was gonna be one of the 3 wise men. But then he was just I want to be one of the 3 wise men. And I was why not? It's that's a big important paper.
Exactly.
Role. And
Yeah.
But he was nah, it's because at first I was a cow and I want to be a cow. And it's why do you want to be a cow? It's why do you want to be one of the main people in it? And my brother said, it's because the cows are just chilling in the back. They're not moving much. And I thought that was just so funny. And I don't think...
Not the cow.
Maybe I was in it, but I can't remember for sure. I probably was a cow or something. I don't remember a lot.
Watching me baby Jesus.
Yeah. No, but that was really funny hearing him say that. But yeah, he ultimately, he was well, I'm not sure he was fully convinced, but he was one of the 3 wise men. Yeah, so he had a fake beard on, and all that. So.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, that thing, I do remember something like that in one of my churches. That's really cool. I'll let you continue, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. Yeah, so they did the whole crucifixion. They had him carry his cross. It was just it was an impact ever since, from that moment forward.
Yeah.
It's just stuck in my memory because it's how can this one sinless human being do the most impossible thing for the rest of us?
Yeah.
It every time I read the Easter story, it just makes me cry. It's how can this sinless person go through all this pain just for us to have a relationship with God?
Yeah.
It's still boggles me. It messes with my mind, but ultimately is it?
Yeah.
We're saved because of him.
It's so impactful.
Oh yeah,
I
You
for
see anything
sure.
like that.
I think that's why as Catholics we believe he's part of the Trinity, because it's not just he's a person. Because for us, he is God. So he's the Son of God, but that's just God reincarnated. So that's
Yes.
why we think it's not just some random person.
Yeah.
That's why it's, to us, or at least the way I took it, is more impactful than if it was just like, a martyr, right? Because a martyr is just a regular person who is a believer.
Yeah.
Is it John 1 where it's like, oh my goodness, what is it? It's the word is God, the word. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't recognize it.
Oh my
Is this
goodness.
the New Testament? I think the New Testament.
I mean, I think that's always throughout the Bible. It's just he is the Word.
He is the
period.
Yeah, he is.
He is, period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like whenever God introduced himself, like, I am.
Mhm.
Yeah, like
Yes.
he is.
I am.
Yes, I am.
And we can talk about the monaguillos, which I'm not sure how they're called in English.
Ultra servers.
Ultra servers, yeah.
Jesus is the priest in the mass. Like
Mhm.
sometimes at the beginning of mass, is like one of the servers they're going to take the cross in front.
Oh,
Yeah,
is
and
it
the
when you guys
candles,
are
yeah.
walking through the aisle with
Yeah.
the? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the dressing depends, I guess, from like country to country. Like
Mhm.
there's one in Africa that's really cool. It's like a white and blue. I
Mhm.
kind of envy that because I wore like a typical like
As a robe?
like black and white.
Was it a robe or was
Yeah,
it?
it was like it would drop all the way to like here.
Yeah.
It was black, and then you would put like a little white cap.
Oh, okay.
Most of the time they took my size. I had to wear like an oversized thing. So,
When I went to the Catholic church, theirs was white, and then the priest was like this black with like this dark green. I thought it was so cool. I was like, can I be the priest? Like, they got awesome stuff.
yeah, and they could choose their own like vestments as long as it's the color that it's
Of the
supposed to be.
season.
Yeah.
But there's a church called Little Flower, and like the priest there, he wears like really, really beautiful garments. Like
Yeah.
Oh.
That is really cool, just how you maybe not, I guess, yeah, express yourself
Yes.
as a priest, like,
yeah,
present
and
yourself.
there's a reading in, I think it's in the book of Revelations where it says about like the priest wearing garments.
Mhm.
So a lot of the things are very biblical that we do. Like
Yeah.
the priest wearing garments, like you only see it in Catholic and Orthodox nowadays.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. That's carried over. Because, yeah, I remember my parents wanted me to be one of those. I was never convinced, but I didn't know. Did you ever carry like a candle or a cross?
Yeah, I carry a cross a few times, but I was
Was it
really
nerve-wracking?
nervous.
Yeah, I bet. 'Cause you were the one in the very front, right? Yeah.
I can't imagine. No, like my mom told me she wanted me to be one, and I was like, what if I just accidentally dropped the cross in the middle of service?
Yeah,
I'm
you
like,
did not
no.
wanna do that.
No.
I was an altar server like 4th, 5th grade,
Yeah.
and like unlike him, like you said, we just wore white with the little
Yeah.
like. It was basically like the rope that
Yeah.
you tie,
Yeah.
and that was just depending on the color of the season. But oh, and then for the candles, I remember they really tried for us to carry candles, but then we were all children. So usually it's children.
Yeah.
So we were like, because some of us were scared. 'Cause they were just like, what if they trip? That's why they were like always wear like.
Because you're wearing a
close to it,
robe,
yeah.
and like, was it lit, the candle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
okay.
God! Yeah, no, they expected it. I think they tried it once, never again.
No.
I don't think in my church they ever did it again.
They were like,
it was
no.
scary.
Yeah, because you're a little kid, that thing's probably heavy.
It is,
Yeah,
because it's
heavy.
usually, because you have to carry, it's not even just the candle, you have to carry the thing that holds the
Yeah.
candle.
Oh.
So those are usually like very like ornate, or like gold or
Yes.
silver, and they're usually heavy. So
I
it's
cannot
just-
imagine. They wanted me to do it, and I was just
I
like,
guess it changes from church to church because
Yeah.
I've seen some church like they use like really young kids, and like where I would go, it would be like between like 10 and 18 years, so like
Yes.
most of the guys were bigger. But I've seen other like churches like just like younger kids. I guess
That's how my church was.
It just
It
depends on
switched
who
between
they
people. Like I remember at one point they had like a little 5-year-old carrying the candle, and I was
Oh
like,
my
that is
goodness.
scary. And it was lit, and my mom kind of looked at me and she was like, "There's a 5-year-old carrying a lit candle," and I was like, I would not like to be that person.
No, I can't imagine.
Mm-mm.
It reminds me like that whenever we were doing, oh my goodness, I wish I could remember exactly what it's called, but whenever everyone's being silent and then they ring the bells.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember, you know.
Oh, that's when he's consecrating the Eucharist.
Yeah,
Like, that's when they hold it up. and
Yeah,
then-
so everyone's being silent and looking down or like closing their eyes. I remember I was speaking one time and then I saw like the guy in the Monaguillo with like the bells and
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ringing them
I
in
rang
the
the bells too.
yeah, you rang the
That
bells.
would miss the time where like I
Yeah, because he would like say a prayer and then you wait like half a second and like you ring it.
Yeah.
So I remember one time it waited like a whole 5 seconds and everyone was like, "Where's the bells at?" Yeah, so.
That you had to help set up the altar.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you have to know where everything went. Some priests they want it a specific way, and some
Ooh.
don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little nerve wracking. I never tried. I was just like, I just got scared.
Yeah, there was like one kid carrying the Bible, right? Carrying the Bible for the
Yes.
priest,
Uh-huh.
and the Bible was like probably like 1,000 years old. It's like very valuable and like not.
I was that kid.
I
I
had
was
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question. Okay, so whenever they set up the altar, since you brought up the altar, when the priest is setting up the altar, he drinks before the rest of us, right?
Yeah.
What is he? Does he drink the same thing we drink, or does he drink something different?
Like he's preparing everything, so he takes a bite pretty much. Like he takes a bite. He eats the Eucharist first, and then he drinks the wine first.
And then doesn't he have like his separate cup?
No, that's the thing about Catholic faith is post-COVID it's a little questionable. Pre-COVID no one cared, but pretty much it's a communal cup.
Mhm.
So
Got
he
it.
dumps all the wine.
Good.
They do. Yeah,
Oh.
they
The
do a
wine
little,
cup.
yeah, they do a little bit of holy water. He prays over it, and then he eats the Eucharist. He drinks the wine, and then he gives it to altar servers. And then from there, the like volunteers, like the people who I
It's
guess
like-
want to
Yeah.
like part it.
they
to
go
the
by
church.
pew and
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, it's your turn."
So like he said, like after one person drinks it, they wipe it and turn the cup. So
Yeah.
technically it's not you drinking from the same spot, but it's still questionable post-COVID.
Yeah, both.
Yeah,
I
it's
can see
like,
people would be like, maybe I'll pass on the
Yeah,
Eucharist
that's why
this
they
time.
stopped doing the wine. Like
on the
when
wine,
COVID
why not?
started.
Well, the Eucharist, yeah, but I mean the whole event.
Can you
Well, we don't have
imagine
to
if they
do
had like Dixie cups
Oh,
that
no.
just didn't?
I know some Baptist churches, because when we first came to the U.S., my
Yeah.
uncle is Baptist, so he took us to his church, and they do individual, like serving sizes. So
Yeah.
everything's pre-packaged. So they have like a little
Oh.
shot of like, it's like a little plastic little shot thing. They like peel the lid and then they drink it, like all at the same time. So pretty much you go get it, you go back to your pew, you hold it, and then you drink it all at once.
Okay, this is a different way. Was this like post-COVID or this is pre-COVID?
That was like early 2000s,
Oh, okay.
so I don't know if
Yeah,
anything's
yeah.
changed yet.
So it was way before COVID.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think that is pretty cool because you can volunteer. You know, this is something where you could become more active with your church service. I think that's.
I did that for my school.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
because they needed help.
yeah, definitely. So I at times I wish like I kind of did try at least once, but you know it was wonderful to see just other kids doing it.
Yeah, I liked having like an active role in mass. So like even here, I like try to read it pretty much, just because it helps me pay more attention. Because I feel like if you're just sitting there, because a lot of people say like the Catholic masses are really boring, but the thing is they are if you keep going.
Yeah.
Because the more you go, everything kind of blends unless you're actually paying attention to what they're reading.
Talking about like the mass itself, that it's like you said, that it could be boring. Like, that was the thing, like not like a problem I had, but like that's something like as a child that I found it boring.
Mhm.
But then again, when I had that little time where I was like conflicted into like, do I just go to that church? Because I went to this church back in North Carolina that was like, they had like this rock concert and they had like TV screens. And I mean, I guess people find it appealing, but back when I was going into history, I found like there was this guy called Justin Martyr. I think I talked about him already, and like he wrote a lot of things. Like he would like debate with like pagan people and like Jewish people about like Jesus, and like he gave himself a description of the mass. And well, I have it here. The way he describes it is that they would meet up on Sundays, and then the first thing they would do in a mass would be read the gospel and the Old Testament. Then they would then the guy that was preceding would read give a homily, talk about what they read. Then they would do a prayer. Then they would do the sign of the peace. Then the priest would bless the Eucharist. Then people will go up and receive the Eucharist. So it's pretty much like this guy, and there's a few other people back there that wrote about the Mass. And this was 200 years before the Bible was even put together.
Oh.
Because there was only scriptures. It took a while for the Bible to be put together. But my point here is that the Mass was being celebrated from the very early stage of Christianity. And I guess the Bible was put to complement the Mass, but nowadays it's a lot of other people just care about the Bible, but the Mass itself was there from the very beginning. So I the way I see it, I used to see it as something boring. Right now I see it as something that what you're seeing there is what the first Christians were seeing. It's kind of like an experience.
Yeah.
Taking the body and blood of Christ and all that makes a lot of sense to me now.
Yeah, a respective tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's this guy named Scott Hahn that talks about the Mass a lot. He used to be a Presbyterian pastor, and he read his way into the church, and now he goes and talks about the Catholic faith and all that.
Okay.
But he's very well known. I think he came to Mass last year or something. But yeah, that's my thoughts about the Mass. That I was saying that I used to find it boring, but now I see it very meaningful.
Right. Wonderful. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you to our special guest, Juan, for coming to the podcast. It was a pleasure talking to you guys about Latin American celebration moments. I hope that we continue to have interesting conversations like this one on the Cena podcast. To the viewers, if you thought today's conversation was interesting, please go and follow this Hispanic Student Association at CBU HSA on Instagram to stay updated on club events, meetings, and the releases of our podcast episodes.